I'm going to show one last type of select query here that will show you how to use multiple tables in your queries, which is easy to do. And I'm going to start a query here. Let's look at the service events table. You'll notice here for each service event, they list the students, but right now they're just showing the first name. And maybe I really want more information on the student. I want to maybe with each event show the full student name, first and last name. Maybe I even want their phone number. What we can do to get that is make sure you're under design here, query tools design, and then we can show table. And we can add multiple tables at the time. And by the way, you can actually build queries off of other queries. I'm not going to show that in the class, but there may be reasons you want to do that, especially if you have complex queries. You can build queries off of multiple tables or multiple queries. But what we're going to do right now is pull up the service events table. And like I said, maybe we want to see with students more than just their first name. So I've got both in there. And the nice thing is that it has created the relationship by default, which is exactly what we want because we defined those relationships in a prior module. So it knows the relationship between these two tables as per this line here, one to many, one student could have many service events. So with the query, let's say we want to show the organization name, the date, and we want to see each student, their first name, last name, and let's say their phone number. And it's easy to pull that and show it. But this might be more useful. Let's say we want to sort and see by each organization a list of the students. And let's also sort by event date. And maybe we want to do event date descending so we get the most current events first. So we run it again. And we get a nice list. It shows for St. Joseph this event on 10/10, and it shows each student that has volunteered for it. Now you're going to get multiple occurrences, of course, of the organization name and the event date because it's going to be duplicated with each name that shows up. But it is showing exactly what we want. With reports, we can format this so it looks much nicer. So that's something down the road with reports, how we can make this actually look a lot better. We could even go back and sort by last name within that as well. And so we get a nice list here. You could print this list and do different things. If you do want to print, you can of course just do that back under File, Print, and it's even going to do a print preview if you want. So let's get out of the print preview. Something else I want to show here with working with multiple tables, if we go to design, is this relationship is established here, and if I double click on it, you're going to see something interesting here. It's shown here the join properties. So on the table on the left, it's joining correctly the ID. All of that is correct, but you get some options down here. And these options actually can be very useful. Right now, it's only including rows where the join fields from both tables are equal. In other words, it's only showing those students that are involved in events, and it's only showing those events that have students connected to them. And that's fine probably for what we want, but there may be a reason we want to do a different kind of join here. And I'm going to demonstrate this. Include all records from students and only those records from service events where the join fields are equal. So in other words, it's going to show every single student, even if they're not listed for a service event. And that could be useful information if we run it. And it's sorting again by event, but what it's actually showing here at the top, and I think this is going to be easier to see if I sort. Let's go back and let's get rid of these sorts in here and rerun it. Let's sort by student last name. What it's going to show in here is for a student when they have no events listed. In other words, this top student, Cindy Abbott, has not volunteered for any kind of service event. The same with Julianne. But you can see like this next student, Lorena, actually we should sort by first name too. It'll be easier. Let's go back. Sort by first name. Maybe let's move that over also. So we sort by last name, by first name. So you can see this second person, Giovanni, our volunteered for one event. Lorena volunteered for 3 different events. And then we have various students in here who have volunteered for nothing. So that information could be really useful. Again, the way you would see that and change that is if you click on here and include all records from students. It's something you might want to experiment with your queries. I'm not going to require it for the assignment, but I want you to be aware of that. In this module, so far we've looked at a lot of different ways to work with select queries. In the next video, we're going to look more at some of these other types of queries. And I'm going to demonstrate an update query and later a delete query. And both of those two, plus append and make table, actually make changes to tables. You can, of course, with a select query, if you have values in there, you can also change data if you make it, again with the properties, you make it a dynaset instead of a snapshot. A snapshot will not allow you to make changes to the table, but with select queries, you can sometimes change data. These definitely will change data in your tables. Make, append, update, and delete. A couple other things I want to point out. If I do a right mouse click within the query here, you of course know data sheet view will show the data, show table. We've worked with some of these things in here. We haven't ever looked at SQL view, and I just want to point out what it is. You really don't have to memorize this, but when I click that, that's what the actual underlying computer code does in Access, and it creates what's called a SQL query, or it shows you the SQL query that's there. SQL just really stands for Structured Query Language. And if you ever take other computer programming courses, you may do a lot more directly with SQL code. If you can actually look at that for any query that you create, it'll show the underlying code if you go to SQL view. Most of the time, you really don't even need to look at it, but I just wanted to be aware of it. Another thing too is that some of these query types, these 3 here, and you also see them up here, are actually types that you would have to build directly with SQL code. We're not going to cover that in this class, but you could read about that if you want. And one other thing I want to mention, and this has been shown and demonstrated in an earlier module, is always back up your data. And this is so important with if you're building queries and you're testing queries and maybe you run it and it's doing something you really don't expect it to do. It's good to always have a backup. I'm going to demonstrate again quickly how you do that. This is list, let's see, student list with organizations. Let's close all and exit out. And again, to back up, you can do File, Save As, and you can either save as the default database format, which would just make a copy of your database if you want to save it in a different location, like the flash drive, or you can do backup database. The nice thing again with this is you save as, and it's going to put the actual date you saved it along with the name, either one.